Welcome back to another episode of the Lava Land Podcast. It's your man, Ryan Motter. And today we're going to be going over some of the drone sightings, urban myths and legends, and some of the holiday traditions that we have here on the podcast. With us, the hostess with the mostest, we got your boy Jay Brand, and we got Mason Stevens. Let's go ahead and get right into it.
So today, on my little scary story / urban legend, I have Mel's Hole.
Ooh.
So Mel's Hole is supposedly a mysterious hole in the Montage Hills of central Washington state. It's a subject of a lot of things. What I was reading about was Mel specifically discovered this hole on his property. He had a dog pass away, and he took it, threw it down in this pit, like wrapped it up in blankets, whatnot. And the next day, the dog came back alive.
What the fuck? And
they like the depth is debated. Like they say it's 80,000 feet. They say it's never ending. It's subject to a lot of happenings. I mean, there's alien sightings. People had like seances. It gets weird.
I'm just trying to figure out how deep it really is, dude. I mean, like you said, they threw the dog in, but is it like throwing a hot dog down a highway, or is it more like entering a crevice that's never been entered?
Because like a crawl space.
Like a crawl space. Because, I've heard a lot of things about this Mel's Hole, and, originally, I thought Mel was a virgin, but I guess he's not, because Mel had a dog enter him, and then the dog came out rejuvenated, back alive. So that's the proof the reincarnation in the Fountain of Youth might be a possibility.
Well, let me add to that, because you said this hole is deep. How the fuck does dog get up out of the hole? That's my thing.
They said it emits beams of light. The guy's name was Mel Waters. He called in on a talk show, I believe, in the early 90s and claimed like this was his property. Now, when people did research, they claimed that like no Mel Waters has lived in that area, but it's largely to believe that to protect his family, he used an alias. So that kind of makes it, some people are like, oh, I'm out. They can't find the guy, but it's like, it would make sense he would have used an alias because even in the 90s, you wouldn't want to be known as a kook.
Right.
Well, it makes you wonder, too, like, did Buddy just drop his dead dog in the hole?
That's kind of
weird,
and
just kind of like, like you drop a coin down a well and see like if you can hear it when it hits the bottom. Or
he was just trying to bury his
dog.
But
imagine Buddy's mindset that his dog dies and he's like, I could bury Charleston, but you know what? Let's just drop him down that fucking hole in the middle of our house and see what happens. Because hey, Charleston might come back alive. You never know, dude.
Hey, apparently he did too. That's pretty crazy.
Imagine that dude's reaction. Do you think he thought it was a ghost? Do you think someone was fucking with him when he first saw his dog come back? Or do you think he was like, Skipper?
I thought it was Charles, dog. Supposedly, there was a medicine man from a native tribe who went by the name of Red Elk. He told reporters that he had visited the hole many times since 1961 and claims the U.S. government maintained a top-secret base there where alien activity occurs.
Occurs.
Yeah, plural.
Still.
Yeah. This was in 2012 when the news talked to this medicine man, Red Elk.
It wouldn't surprise me that the government does have like facilities and bases on like random locations, because if you look at like even like Oppenheimer and like the Manhattan Project is what it was called when they made the nuke. It was done at like a random like location, like on like a farm or something, like off the like beaten path where you wouldn't expect something to be going on, right? And that's kind of like their mindset, is that they want to do that. That way they don't have people trying to sneak in and see what's going on, right? If it's in a spot that like nobody's going to or nobody's checking up on, like I bet Iowa, fucking places like, help me out here, but like some other places that like nobody fucking goes to, you know what I mean? Like
dead zone.
Yeah, dead zones. Like that's where they're gonna fucking set shit like that up. Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You know, those places are probably hooked up with military bases and other kind of like secret bases and locations that do secret operations that, you know, obviously isn't disclosed to the public because that's not for us to.
Well, and to
into.
think like 80,000 feet is probably like inaccurate just because something of that depth would probably cave itself in at some point.
Yeah.
But that was like the point I think I was going to get to. It's like, even if it was this hole that existed in the 90s or the 80s or whenever he said he discovered it, it's quite possible it caved itself in. I mean, there's earthquakes out on the western seaboard if it's in Washington.
Well, not only that,
Like
you know, this just kind of made me like realize too, it very possibly could have been a sinkhole.
True.
You know, you hear about sinkholes that like happen, like people's houses just fucking like fall under. That could have been a sinkhole that happened underneath his property. And it just so happened that the way his property was built, it happened to avoid going under when the sinkhole happened. And he just happened to discover it.
Yeah.
And that was the remnants of that sinkhole. You know, I mean, without having proper, like, scientists go in and research it, you know, like, you're never really going to know.
Why is it being, like, hidden, though? Why are they trying to, like, not look into it at all?
Government has a history of just hiding things.
Just cause?
Yeah, just, well, we're on a need-to-know basis. Even though we fund it as taxpayers, they tend to leave us out of all the... And with rightful order in some cases, because
I think
you
in
can't
most
let any
cases
people.
it's understandable because there are a lot of people out there, especially nowadays, that just they take information and run with it, and they can be fooled with the dumbest shit, the dumbest posts, can convince these people that somebody's died or something has happened that didn't actually happen. And you know that, and that information in the wrong hands is just going to cause. Also, it's probably a safety concern because they don't want people just going to this location and trying to like, let me go explore it.
True.
And then people
Get
end
hurt.
up dying, right?
Well, not only that, but like realistically, if the government was honest about everything they're doing, our nation would flip shit, dude. Like, we would go into chaos. They're trying to do chaos control at that point.
I completely agree with that. I mean, it's necessary chaos control to a certain point.
Yeah.
Another thing I had, it's not in Washington, but it's similar. It's not like a dark, like deep hole. Dark deep hole. Oh my god. Oh my god. But there's this guy on Reddit, Eric Young 0322. He found this portal on Google Maps in the California desert, and like he has the latitude and longitude. Like, I mean, what is this, man? Like,
yes, I've seen that before.
Like, see an image of it.
like it used to be a military
You know what it
base that's
low-key
abandoned.
looks like? Like, it kind of looks like the Millennium Falcon almost, but it also kind of looks like, if you know what like a an illithid is, or like the Cthulhu, like the Cthulhu. It almost
like
kind of
its
looks
face.
like that. That's its face.
Whoops.
He has a latitude and longitude on it. That's like, so he's legit.
So this is on Google Maps, and I've actually seen like updates throughout the years of this picture. So it used to be like, I don't know if you can see it, but there's an indent in the sand where
Is
it
it
used to
water
be.
in there? Or is it
Somebody
just
claimed,
a
I think
hole?
if you read down the thread, that maybe it was a nuclear base that like went awry and they never told anyone.
They do also like cover shit up on maps too. So it could,
For sure.
there could be something underneath what we're seeing there. You know what I mean? Like,
They make it look like water.
or something. Yeah.
So that could be, like you said, it could be a base that's like being covered up. You know what I mean? Or something like that.
But it's been moved though. That's what's crazy about it. Like, what makes me think it's not just covered up is because there's that exact same shape indent in the sand of that whatever it is.
The top user on this, who's been like subreddited off it, says that when he searched the coordinates on Apple Map, it is flat out labeled as a naval air weapons station.
Wow.
So maybe that's some type of weapon has made that mark on
It
the
low
Earth.
key does look like
Like
a mega ship,
like a
bro.
laser.
Like some plasma beam.
Yeah, they claim the whole reason, like the consensus theory that I would say of it is that it's a portal. Like the U.S. military created some type of portal to like another dimension, and tried to seal it, or it collapsed. But they would never tell us. So.
Yeah.
It being in California is kind of interesting too, because they say that like Los Angeles is the city of fallen angels. And like I remember in like the Percy Jackson movie that came out, like when they I forget how long ago it was, but the first movie they go to they have to go to Hades basically to like rescue Percy's mom, and the entrance to hell, you have to go through the Hollywood sign in the city of fallen angels, and basically that's how you enter hell. And it's kind of like, it always kind of made me think that like if it is the city of fallen angels, like there has to be a significance for that. There's got to be a reason that it's called that. You know, it's not just called Sin City just because of the shit that happens there. There's got to be another reason.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's another interesting take. Now that you said that, there is a lot of cities in California that's based after like either the saints or angels, you name it.
Yeah.
Weird.
I mean, San Diego is Saint Diego. That's
Isn't there like it's like a pass, or it's like the Diablo Pass or Diablo Trench or something like that is like in California as well.
I mean, Nevada's close. That's Sin City.
Yeah.
Over there, City of the Angels by Sin City.
Right.
It's just that. I mean, it's interesting. Just it's kind of something that piqued my interest while we were in topic of it.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a urban legend, scary myth?
I think that one thing I wanted to bring up while we were on the urban myth and legends type topic is there was a show me and my boys used to watch back in the day called Lost Tapes.
Nice.
And Lost Tapes is pretty cool. It had like, they were like home like made videos, almost kind of like Paranormal Activity type shit, but of like people like experiencing their like experiences with like vampires. There was like the Jersey Devil, aliens, some other shit too. It's a good show to go check out. Me and Tristan the other night watched the vampire one, and we think that like low key some of it does look a little fake, but some of the stuff is just, it's definitely interesting, and like it had us spooked as a kid. And I think that there definitely is some like shit you could look into that just doesn't make sense. And I think that it could be possible at one point that some of these creatures could have possibly existed, like the Loch Ness Monster, or, you know, even vampires for that matter. Yeah. I don't know if they're still around to that degree, or like, you know what I mean? Like we could have eradicated them, but at the same time, they could still exist, and we just don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, you know. It's one of those things that without solid proof, you can't prove it, but you also can't debunk it without the proof either, you know?
Yeah.
So it's hard to say.
I think it's very interesting that a lot of those things have just kept alive through the ages.
Yeah.
Vampire, Dracula, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, whatever it is. I mean, there's something to it. It couldn't have been carried on through, like people wouldn't have told that story over and over again just out of BS.
I wanted to add a little bit. I don't really think it's like an urban myth or legend or anything, but it does kind of like coincide with it a little bit. I just found out yesterday there's a U.S. patent for a triangular spacecraft.
Ooh.
So all these like triangle UFO sightings people are seeing, it kind of makes me think that like all of this shit we've seen is ours, and they're trying to make it look like it's UFOs type shit to just make people talk about it.
True.
But like here, I'll look it up real quick.
I mean, we definitely have had circular craft, Air Force devices. The German army had that. I mean, everybody's tried to recreate UFOs and has had some kind of craft. Right here on Google patents, right off of Google, it is U.S. patent number US 20060145019A1. This is the patent for it. Yeah, wow.
Yep.
And it says...
It's what a lot of people have seen.
And it says... Summary of the invention. This invention is a spacecraft having a triangular hull with vertical electrostatic line charges on each corner. The line charges create a horizontal electric field that, together with a plane wave emitted by antennas on the side of the hull, generates a force per volume, providing a unique combination of both lift and propulsion. This was created. I don't think it says when it was created, but it was abandoned. It's claimed that it's abandoned as of 2004. But we've had sightings of this thing in the sky.
I doubt it's abandoned.
Yeah.
Maybe it's abandoned because they've already completed it.
Exactly. I was going to say, I think project completion was probably in 2004, and then they just went ahead and released it.
But yeah, I just thought that was really crazy, man.
That's how it is with most military technology too. Not that they say like it's not completed, but so say like in 88 they came out and were like, this is the F-22 Raptor. It is a known fact within the military that when the military says, look at our latest toy, they're retiring it.
Yeah.
They're not telling us that. But it's so past the point of concern of the enemy knowing about it that they're just going to take a dump on the public and go, this is our latest thing.
I talk about that all the time with you guys a lot. Like, a lot of the technology that we get comes down from military grade first. Like, especially like, I talked about this when I first got my drone. Like, we didn't have access to drones until after the military's already perfected it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And like you said, they're retiring. They're not necessarily retiring it, but they're moving on from it.
They're not worried about the enemy knowing about it because, like he said, if it was released to like a public report, then the enemy would have access to that report, and then they would know about what we're using. So they would not want to release their top secret weapons in a report like that because then the enemy could pick up on it.
True. And just to like piggyback what you were saying, I mean, all of our greatest technology that we use on day-to-day basis is military tech. GPS to get somewhere. Yep. They were using that in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
All your high-tech cell phone cameras, your recording devices, they had that in the 60s and 70s.
Probably before that, honestly.
I mean, they literally came out and said, I think it was NASA, that the first Game Boy that did not have a backlit screen was like 10 times more high tech than the lunar module.
Wow.
So it's that kind of tells you all you need to know, that we've took this quantum leap in technology somewhere, that we're so far advanced, and maybe we are the aliens.
Let's go off of that real quick, because that kind of sparks a new conversation with the moon landing.
Yeah.
Like, did we really have the technology back then, like, to get on the moon? Do you think that moon landing was real or not?
So I would have to say, like, it. Obviously, we weren't there, so we don't know for sure. But I don't think that it's very possible that it was real. And I want to say this because at the time that happened, the space race was going on, and Russia had already gotten to the moon. So the U.S. needed something to say, "Hey, we're better than you." So they
they didn't get to the moon. They orbited space.
They orbited space. So the U.S. needed something to say, "We're better than you." So they. Obviously, the moon landing. And I talked before in another episode about how when I was in high school, we were reading a book because I went to school for photography and videography. And there was this book about like video editing and photo editing. And it showed somebody took a picture of a tortilla from up above, and it looked like the fucking moon. Dude.
Yeah,
I think we've talked about this
very
before.
easily done something like that to recreate the moon landing and make it look real when it really probably could not have happened. I mean, it's
for sure. No, definitely. And I mean, Hollywood was really big at that time too. So, I mean, it makes sense. That actually reminds me of something that's current right now. You guys know about the people that are stuck in space since June, right?
Yeah.
Get this. So they just posted a picture. I don't know exactly where, but they just posted a picture of them, just to let everyone know they're still doing okay. But get this, bro. They have Christmas hats on. It was supposed to be an 8-day mission in space back in June, and they have Christmas hats in December. How the fuck do they have Christmas hats right now?
So they keep Christmas hats on the space station?
Exactly, dude. Like, they just had those ready. They just had them just in case.
Seems like a tight tight space to be keeping your Christmas stuff in there, bro. You know how that you always are packing in boxes.
I mean, I'm sorry, but low key, if I was being sent to space, I wouldn't expect to be there for only 8 days.
That's yeah.
You know what I mean?
Gotta
I would
prepare.
expect it to be a longer journey than that.
But I mean, at the same time, though, 6 months. If it's an 8-day planned mission, maybe a month tops if shit goes wrong.
Right.
But they have Christmas hats, bro. Either they got sent those Christmas hats, and for some reason they can't get them down.
That's
but they
what's
sent
fucked,
them hats,
bro. That's
Oh,
fucked.
man.
If they're sending them,
or they're not actually there. They're not actually in space.
That there is things where you can go deep down the rabbit hole of the ISS footage where like there's bloopers, you know, where like somebody's in the background or like gravity doesn't work for a second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
it could be Photoshop too. They could be like editing the hats on and post edit type of shit.
They
You
have
know
those
what I mean?
planes. You can get on those planes where they go up high enough and then they take a fast descent and it creates like the zero gravity.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we know they're not in some crazy loop-de-loop plane for 10 minutes and they make this video and then they say they're in space?
Or they just do a nosedive real quick and be like, "Oh, let's take this 10-second video." Damn.
It's
They're
very
more.
possible.
Cat Williams said it in a podcast that they're better funded, they're more organized than everyone. So to think that they can't fake something of that nature is kind of naive at this point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that Elon Musk is going to waste all this time to try to get them back, though, if they're not in space?
Maybe he knows they're not actually there.
Oh.
Like, that's what I'm saying, bro. All these people, like, they all know what's up. They all know what's up. Let's be real. Like,
There's a high-end elite that
Yeah.
runs everything
Oh,
for
yeah.
the better or worse.
So, with the video I had watched a couple weeks ago, it was about talking about, people that think that like Cain from the Bible, the one who killed his brother,
Yeah.
the first killer technically, right?
mm-hmm.
That like they think that he technically still walks the earth because in the Bible, after he killed his brother, God basically like cursed him to where anything that he grew would not produce fruit. He was cursed to walk the earth, and he was given a mark to where nobody could kill him. So technically, Cain could still be roaming the earth, right? And there's people that think that like Cain could possibly be one of the members of the elites that run the world because he's been around for so long that he has like ancient knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And the devil was also cast down to earth during the rebellion with all the other angels that rebelled against God, right? So there's many angels that could be on the earth that were cast down. And some of these divine beings, I think, are personally the ones that became like the Nephilim or the Greek gods, Roman gods, Egyptian gods, right? So I think it's very possible that some of these people could be the members of the elite, Satan being one of them, could be members of the elite that run things on the world, because technically the Bible describes it that the earth is kind of Satan's domain. I mean, Satan was cast down here, and he is a divine being with powers. He was an angel, a fallen angel, but still is a divine being, has more capability and powers than we do as humans. He very well could be one of the elites that runs everything
It's all deception.
on the earth.
It's all deception.
And look at the media. It's 100% deception. Look at Hollywood. Look at how much I've noticed it growing up, but how much sex has been prioritized. I mean, you can't watch a show or movie without sex being in the show, being talked about, or, for that matter, homosexuality being a factor in the show. There's always now a gay couple in every show you watch.
Yep.
So I mean, they're definitely trying to push a narrative, and I think that the family structure is something that they're trying to destroy too. I'm not saying that I'm against people that, I mean, if you're happy doing what you do, I don't care. You know what I mean? If you're happy being in a homosexuality relationship, that's on you. That's your decision. But I do think that at the end of the day, them pushing that down people's throats is destroying the family structure, because the family structure is wife, husband, and then a family, right? But if you have these homosexuality relationships, unless you're going to adoption as the route, how are you having kids?
Right.
And that's why another reason why fertility is so low. And I was watching a video by Infographics like a couple days ago, talking about some of the crazy predictions and stuff about 2025. And they were talking about how like high schoolers and teenagers, they're not having sex like kids before us did and like kids in our generation did. Because now they're being what's the word I'm looking for? They're being
celibate.
No. They're being, what's the word when you get like they're being stimulated by like these shows and TikToks and stuff, so they don't feel
have an urge.
They don't have the urge to go out and do that because they're getting instant gratification right in front of their face, or going out and buying something that they can get on Amazon real quick. They're not like going out and experiencing things like kids before us, and I think that life is about your experiences. I mean, you become kind of like what you experience. I mean, that's like the factor of what you kind of learn about. That's how like you learn your experiences. It's how you learn to like cope with life, is what you dealt with before you, right? So without those experiences, you're kind of just skibbity toilet meme. I mean, that's all you know.
Literally.
Would you guys agree that, to piggyback off Dolla, that with all the instant gratification, we've replaced attention we've replaced affection with attention?
Yes, absolutely.
I think so.
Because it's all digital attention now, and like once you're okay, cool, I got 30,000 likes, I don't need a man or a woman. Everybody loves me.
Yeah. Honestly. Like I think we talked about it one episode where it's a digital hug.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Digital hugs. Yeah, that's crazy.
I think going back to about like the family structure thing, I think too that, not that this is bad at all, I think that like 100% women deserve the right to be able to like go out and work a job and earn like an acceptable wage like a man does. But I think that in reality, I mean, back in the day, most of the times the women, sometimes they worked, but sometimes they stayed home and took care of the kids, you know? I mean, and now like the man isn't like, a woman doesn't need a man like they did back then, you know? Now a woman can go out and provide for themselves. They almost don't have to rely on another person. But at the same time, with like this economy, like things are easier if you have a partner to help you out with things, you know, and like to be able to like split expenses and split food and all that, you know. But at the same time, like nowadays, I can almost see why the structure is dwindling down, because some of these women, they're not taking shit from some of these guys, because some of these dudes don't fucking help themselves. They do stupid shit, and then they wonder why like they're getting left in the first place. But at the same time, it's like these women now are starting to realize like they don't need you. Mm-hmm. They can provide for themselves.
Well, let me add to that, because going off of the whole destroying the family structure thing, realistically, like the capitalist aspect of this country was designed for the man to work and the wife to stay at home to raise the kids, and it worked. And then as soon as inflation started to get completely out of control, it forced women to have to work. So that could also be another factor that plays into destroying the family structure, because now you're not able to spend as much time with your wife. You know what I mean? Like they have to go out and do their own thing. It could possibly fuck up your relationship because they might meet someone at work.
I think,
you know what I mean? Like
realistically, I think that this instant gratification mindset and like these video games and stuff are also destroying that, because now, like you mentioned, like a man and woman spending time together is how you kind of develop that connection and how you develop that love, right? But now if like you're in a relationship and your woman's just sitting there on her phone watching TikToks, or your boyfriend is just sitting there playing Fortnite, you know what I mean? Like there's no connection.
Disconnect.
It's disconnect. Exactly.
I think the one thing that gets lost, because society took this change where, specifically from the female perspective, is like, I don't need men. Why do they want to control me, protect me, and do these things? You have to really understand history to understand why we are even in the place we are today.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that specifically is men didn't get in a position of power through oppression. They got in a position of power through consent, because for thousands of years, the world was hard.
Yeah.
You didn't have society that was built by men. I mean, if we're just being honest, when you look at the pictures in the 30s, it's a bunch of dudes sitting on buildings 100 feet in the sky. They went through the snow. They tackled the wilderness. They went through these long journeys on boats to get to new worlds. And the women were just like, protect us and provide for us. And now we're at a position in time where they're like, I don't want you to do any of that for me.
I want to add to that because there's a quote that I heard like just this year that I've never heard before that's really resonated with me, and I'm probably going to stick with it for the rest of my life. Hard times make strong men make easy times make weak men, and weak men make hard times.
Nailed it.
That's like one of my favorite quotes, and I just heard it this year. I've never heard it before today, and
I agree with that 100%. I think one thing on Jordan's part that he was saying, like I don't want to like say I disagree with it, but the only part that I will say I almost disagree with, like you were saying about consent, is I think that's like one of the things that's why men kind of rose to power, is they didn't give a fuck about your consent because it was about their brute strength back in the day. Their brute strength is what made men superior to women, right? Because they didn't care about how smart you were. They cared about whether or not you could defend yourself, if you could protect yourself, and if you could provide for your family and for yourself.
True.
And so nowadays we're in a structure and a settlement and like a society.
We're in a structured settlement and we need cash now. Call JG Wentworth.
I got 877 cash cows. I got 877 cash cows. I could want to sell them like right now.
Yeah, we should be getting paid by JG.
Sorry, dude. You just said structured settlement. I had to.
I feel it. But what I meant to say was structured society in the sense that like now, like your brawn strength doesn't really matter. Like low key, like the people that are like working out all the time, like what are they labeled? They're labeled as meatheads, right? Which means like they're dum-dums, you know, like
dum give me gum.
They're just focused on their strength and like it doesn't matter in that sense anymore. Now like your inability to like your intellect is what's important almost now. You know, whether or not you're smart enough to be able to come up with something that people are actually going to use. And that, you know, you're able to make enough money, you know, that's kind of what people look at now. It's not about whether or not you can punch somebody at a fucking strength and knock them out in one punch. That doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
True. I do think, though, that the person who is, like, completely sculpted, though, whether people, like it or not, that's the person with the most respect and attention in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, If we're all hanging out in a room and Arnold Schwarzenegger walks in, it's all eyes on him. Not because he's famous, because that dude looks like a Greek god.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty privilege is real. It's the most realest thing that exists that people don't want to talk about. So for my thing would be like, why would you not want to be that way?
Yeah.
I mean, look at Kim Kardashian. What is she famous for? What is she famous for? Because she's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
She is a consensus version of a 10.
Yeah.
Same thing with a guy. If I could be me, or if I could be me jacked with an 8-pack, I would choose the 8-pack jacked all day, because when I walk in a room, they're going to go, look at that guy.
Mm-hmm. Goes back to the intention over affection.
Exactly. And I mean, it demands respect.
Yeah.
If you're a CEO and you're 100 pounds and you're 5 foot nothing, or you're 6 foot and you're jacked, dudes are going to listen to you.
So the one thing that like pisses me off about that is the height factor in that shit. Like, motherfucker, we ain't got control of our height, but we do have control of our build.
Yeah.
So
That's
like
true.
when you got a short motherfucker who's built, he's just
It's a little different.
Like that. We can cut
Mighty
out
Mouse.
We can cut out the name, but remember when we worked at Checksmart?
Oh, yeah.
That motherfucker Derek. You seen him nowadays? He like went into MMA.
Hey,
and
he's
now
knocking
like,
dudes out.
Oh, yeah, for real.
He's knocking dudes out.
But he was a small motherfucker.
Yeah.
He was smaller than me, but
Yeah.
he be knocking motherfuckers
Funny story
out.
about Schmerschmerich.
we can say first name.
Yeah,
That's fine.
one time this dude, he wrecked his truck, and he didn't like wreck bad or anything. He was like stuck in a ditch, and he was real young at the time when this happened. He was like a teenager maybe, and like I go and get him in the middle of the night, and I'm like, you weren't drinking or anything like that, like you're cool. And he's like, no. And I'm like, you weren't doing something on your phone, were you? And he's just like, he's just hanging his head down. He goes, I was Snapchatting. He's like Snapchatting and goes in a ditch. And I'm just like, all right, I won't tell nobody. Well, I did right now, but it was so funny in the moment because I knew something was up. Because I'm like, dude, this road is like 35 mile an hour and it's a straight road. Like, how did we get here? You know what I mean? And he was like, oh, I just kind of lost control. And I'm like, dude, no, you got to be like lit or something. He's like, no, I literally got off work. And I was like, were you on your phone?
The shame is funny.
I was sending a Snapchat. And then he had the other Snapchat where he's in the ditch. He sent me, and I'm just like, all right, it's cool, dude.
Like, this motherfucker did do it.
Yeah,
I'm calling the cops.
And weird, like, to circle back to, like, the scary stories thing, that night, like, I'm glad I did stop and, like, because I was, like, the person behind him, like, leaving work. And there was some guy who was a total weirdo about it. Like, this guy is, like, in a CRV. Like, he parked on the side of the road and just sat there. Like never came to talk to anybody. And eventually I got out of the car and was like, no, this is weird. And I came over and, like, you could tell he was startled because my car was sitting in, like, that fireplace, like where they built those fireplaces. Or not fire trucks.
Oh,
Sutphin. So I was sitting in that parking lot, but my lights were off because, like, we were waiting for somebody to show up to pull his truck out of the ditch. And this guy just sat on the side of the road in, like, total weirdo status. Like, notice D's truck was in the ditch and, like, stopped. Like, so he was either going to steal something from the truck or something weird. And then I went and knocked on the dude's door, and he totally was like, oh, crap, there's someone else here, and, like, bugged out.
You know, I'm almost like...
What?
Mm-hmm. I'm almost, like, not surprised that something crazy happened in front of that company because I've always been saying every time we drive past them, I'm like, you can't trust them, bro. Mm-hmm. Because I'm telling you right now, that company, they are fucking up to something, bro. They are up to something.
You had me going for a minute. I'm like, they build fire trucks. What are you talking about? They're good people.
They're up to something.
No, they up to something, dude. They up to something.
Hell yeah.
Dang.
All right. Well, now since it's like the fourth time's the charm, let's go ahead and get back into another topic here.
Actually, real quick, before we go into that, I
right.
just want to say real quick, back on like the lost tapes thing, remind me when we get done with this episode. I got a video to pull up for y'all. It reminds me of lost tapes because it's this video of this dude in the woods, right? And he's filming a video. And all of a sudden you see this motherfucker in the woods, like in the distance. And he's like, what the fuck is that? You look closer and it's some dude wearing a Michael Jackson mask. This motherfucker turns around and starts chasing the dude, right? And the dude starts running.
That's scary as shit.
Hold on. All of a sudden you hear, this is where it gets crazy. All of a sudden you hear 2 gunshots. And the motherfucker holding the camera just drops. And all of a sudden the dude that was chasing him, the dude wearing the Michael Jackson mask, runs up to the camera. He picks up the camera and it points up at him and he just goes, yeah. He just drops the camera and takes off running, bro.
Michael Jackson's a murderer.
That's really scary.
I mean, if Michael Jackson was in the woods coming at me, dude, I'd be out of there.
Oh, facts.
He's a smooth criminal. You ain't never gonna find the body because I hit it.
All right, so on to the next topic that we've been trying to do for the past 4 takes on this recording.
5 business days.
Literally, dude. New sightings of drones / UFOs. I would say both because it is both. In Ohio, we got some in Delaware Airport and Wright Pat Air Force Base. They got some spotted. Dolla, go ahead and kick it off with what you got up there.
So basically what happened was Wright Pat Air Force Base is a Air Force base in Ohio, for those of you that aren't aware. And what happened was last week there was some drone sightings that were spotted at the Air Force Base, and it caused them to actually shut down the base for a couple of hours. It's pretty interesting that they had to shut down the whole base, but it doesn't specify whether or not the whole base was shut down. When I was younger, I used to grow up getting my healthcare done at Wright Pat. They have like healthcare facilities and like doctors and stuff at Wright Pat. They even have like a whole like, it's called the commissary, but it's like a whole store you can go to and like buy shit and get food and stuff at Wright Pat. So that could have been what was shut down. It may not have been the actual military operations, because I almost find it hard to believe that they would shut down military operations for a couple hours. But what is also interesting is it states that the Department of Homeland Security experienced 5,000 reports of drone sightings. So 5,000 people reported to the Department of Homeland Security that they saw drones. But that also makes you wonder how many people did not report it.
Yeah.
And how many people saw it and maybe reported it to some other institution or some other agency or called 911.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Honestly, like, that's a good point that you bring up about like the medical facility in there, because like, what if it's just a bunch of fear mongering that they're trying to do? They're trying to say the whole facility or like the whole base shut down, but really it's probably just like the people, like the nurses that work there or something, like the medical field or like the medical aspect of it got shut down, or like the cafeteria got shut down or some shit, or the education if they have that.
Right.
Because I'm sorry, but there's no way you would just shut down the entire base because there's some unidentified object in the sky. If anything, you would initiate more action
especially
on the base.
that base, because for those that like aren't familiar with Ohio, they may not understand like the significance of it. But like Wright Pat, there has been rumors that like there is like an Area 51 equivalent at Wright Pat. Like Wright Pat is a very special base. It's a very big base. And it's a well-known military base. So I think that it's very possible that there could be deeper shit going on there that obviously we don't know about.
I actually got something to add on to that. There was a UFO crash in like the 70s near Dayton, Ohio, and they took it to that Air Force base. And you can look it up.
Wow.
They took that UFO to that air base.
That would make sense, especially with it being in Dayton.
And there was a bunch of claims that all this UFO got taken to the Dayton, Ohio air base or whatever.
It's definitely been around a long time. I mean, it's one of the more funded bases in our country too.
It could have been in the 70s. It could have been a lot later. But
I mean, my buddies went to college up there, and one time I was trying to find this house party, and it was real late at night and it was real dark, so I kept like turning down the wrong road, and I started to notice like this vehicle kind of like following me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a black SUV, and I eventually like pulled up this place because I couldn't get my like internet to work, and this like as soon as I had pulled over the side, this guy was like, "Who are you here? What are you doing? Like why would you stop here? This is like military property." So it's, I mean, that's how serious it was. Like I wasn't in the base, I was on the road.
Real
by
quick, before I let you go onto that, it just almost makes me think that you mentioned like your Wi-Fi stopped working when you entered there.
Yeah.
There very well could be like disruptors in the base that they have intentionally to stop you from being able to like pull up certain shit you shouldn't be able to pull up, or have connection to the Wi-Fi so you can even attempt to do something nefarious. You know what I mean?
So I just wanted to go back off of what you said about the UFO from the 70s brought to Wright Pat. I just pulled up Dayton Daily News. It says, in a new book, a former Air Force intelligence officer recounts an incident he claims resulted in an alien being killed in 1978. Retired Air Force Major George Filer III told John Guerra that on a day in January 1978, a 4-foot creature, gray and brown in color with a large head, long arms, and a thin body was shot and killed at Fort Dix in New Jersey. And then after the alien was shot and killed, a cleanup crew from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was flown in to retrieve the body to press reports.
That's what it was.
Damn.
It was on a Netflix special. It was actually like the something files on Netflix, like the Alien Files. It's on the documentary on Netflix. It's all,
Wow.
It's all about it on there.
So get hip to this, guys. My uncle Dave was high up in the Air Force, and he was stationed at Wright Pat. This would have been around the 70s and the early 80s. He's like one of the most quiet people I know. He was pretty decorated, so he was an officer. Very serious guy. And he told me this story one time when we were up fishing at Lake Erie, and he said when he was at Wright Pat, he was coming home at 3 a.m. to his house, and he saw this car on the road leading to his house, which already spooked him because he lived in the middle of nowhere and it was on Air Force Base property.
Yeah.
And so he said he pulled up to the car, and it was an elderly couple, and they just paid no attention to him and were just staring outside of their window. And when he looked at what they were looking at, he said like there was green lasers beaming in a circle in this field, And so he walked out in the field to see what it was. And as he got closer to these beams, he said the entire sky was humming. And when he looked up, he like struggled whether it was clouds or not. But in his recount of this, he said the entire sky was a craft. And like as he started to notice it was a craft, it had this like where it was like spinning so fast, but like you could see it moving slowly.
Yeah.
And then he said in the blink of an eye, this craft was gone. And he kind of like got back to his car. This couple wouldn't talk to him. He went home. And then he said 4 hours later, he had a knock on his door from a guy who was like way up in the Air Force Base and was like, "What did you see?"
Wow. That's crazy, dude.
And
It is pretty
I'm telling
crazy.
you, my Uncle Dave, he doesn't talk much at all.
He does not fuck around.
Yeah, like he doesn't drink. All he ever does is smoke cigarettes. So, I mean, he is a very quiet, calm-mannered guy. Like, he doesn't get excited. Me and the rest of people, my family, we talk shit, laugh, yell. Dave is quiet.
He gets excited about talking about that, huh?
But, I mean, we're talking it took 20 years of fishing with this guy to get this story.
Wow.
And my uncle would always be like, "Dave, tell him the story. Tell George the story about this." And he'd, another time. And like, eventually I was older and he told it to me. And I mean, the dude had that kind of like, he was reliving it as he was telling the story. Like he even said like at a moment when he was looking at the green beams, like it had this like he felt like he should have walked into it, but didn't. And like he's glad he didn't, but it was like he felt there was something to these laser beams coming towards the ground.
I know what I was going to ask on top of that. So on top of what you were saying, like, because you said that he saw it almost like hovering over like a farm field.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the rumors and like talks about like crop circles. Do you think that those are like a real thing? Do they are like alien related? Do you think it's just like a phenomenon or just maybe somebody doing something intentionally?
I think it's both because there's been simplistic ones that are recreated for
And
sure.
Intricate.
Then
ones.
there's ones that are like, there's no way Farmer Joe is making that shit.
Let me add to that because it would be one thing if we had like technology, like drones, for example, to be able to see what you're doing.
Right.
But the scale of these things, dude, like the scale of these things and the perfection,
Yeah,
is just
It almost has to
it's
be,
unmatched, dude.
right.
And it honestly makes sense that like what your uncle was talking about in a farm, like that almost sounds like that's what they were doing. It almost sounds like they were trying to make a crop circle.
Well,
right.
it gets back to what you were saying, though. Like, we have these patents on these crafts.
Yeah.
And he had this high officer who was nowhere at
That's
the scene.
where it's
this
like-
was pre-cell phone,
That's where it gets
pre-internet.
interesting.
And, like, they knew what he knew. So it's the kind of, that's the red flag for me. If, why were they on it, like, within hours?
That, I mean, I agree with that 100%, and I think that it definitely is kind of fishy, but I also think, like, what you were saying earlier, how, like, the government has access to technology that the people don't have until years later. They very well could have had cameras set up all around the military base. So as soon as something happened, they were able to see who was there and what they saw. And then afterwards, they had to send somebody out to kind of basically like damage control in a way. Because, and I guarantee you, whether or not he wants to admit it or not, that encounter alone with the military officer put the fear of God in your uncle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That was like, oh shit, okay, I just saw something that I should not talk about. I probably shouldn't even try to remember it because, you know, I should try to forget it and just go on with my life because I guarantee you that that is something that the military did not want him, like you said, him telling his nephew,
Telling me.
you know what I mean? Like that's not something they just wanted him telling people, you know?
We don't know what your nephew's going to end up doing a podcast one day and fucking blow the lid off this thing.
Shit, they might already know that we were going to do this somehow.
FBI, get on the ground. But no, so I would prod further, like when I would
Lift the pop filter up a little bit.
when I would speak with him, and the one thing I would ask him though is I would be like, what was, you know, like, is Right Pat like a secretive base or something? And the only thing he would ever tell me, he goes, what I do know is I believe he was an admiral. I could be wrong on the rank, but I mean, it's high up in the Air Force. Like, he retired from it. And he said there was hangars he went to that had armed guards that were like, you can't come in here. And he would be like, what do you mean I can't? Like, he was like 4 removed from like a high up official there. So
Damn.
He was Johnny on the, like, he ran the place. So it's like, if he can't go into it,
there's levels to
there's something else.
I was going to add to that. One thing that I do know about Right Pack, because I went there on a field trip one time, they throw hints at you. Like, when you're a kid and you go through the exhibit that they let you go through and shit, it's all colorful and, you know, eye-popping to a kid, but they will throw little, like, UFOs here and there, like, in their design. Like, they have, like, these, like, sculpted walls. Like, they, like, sculpt out a drywall and shit. And then paint over it, but they have like UFOs and aliens like up on the walls. Like if you look up at the walls and all the decorations they have, I mean they put shit like that up there.
The Denver airport.
Yeah,
have you seen the Denver airport?
There's
That shit's
so
crazy,
many weird
bro.
things.
Yes,
Dude.
That shit is crazy. Low key.
They redid it all for no reason. Like it was a perfectly fine airport, and for some reason they redid it, and they claimed it was like, oh, we have all these underground tunnels because we don't use like this underground monorail or something they used to use, and it's like that just seems too convenient.
Yeah.
You know, and then they have like there's a horse out in the front of the airport that like signifies like the apocalypse. There's these murals inside there, and I mean supposedly you can get in trouble for snooping around and taking videos and asking too many questions, and they say there is a sub-level to that airport. Like it you can tell it like if you subpoena or if you've looked at the Freedom of Information Act on like the plans they've had for it. It goes sub-level for sure, but it's like how far? And I mean they, you know, it's like they use these like it was an underground monorail or all it used to be this like luggage elevator, and it's like I just don't buy that at all. I mean, so you're telling me we had a better luggage elevator 100 years ago at that airport than we do now, and we're losing people's bags? And
yeah, I mean those murals too. Is it good? Is it good? Those murals too. I mean, they depict like the apocalypse.
Yeah,
like a timeline from beginning to end of the apocalypse and shit.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, these big companies, even like Red Cross Red Shield. I mean, the logo for Red Cross Red Shield is a cross with a serpent going down it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that shit just doesn't happen out of nowhere. I mean,
it's all planned.
If you look up that symbol,
if it's the symbol I'm thinking of, there's like a medical symbol that's like that. It's like because it's like the staff of Hermes. Was like two snakes, and like Hermes was like the god of like eventually like medicine and shit too, but like messaging and all that type of shit. But basically like that was like his staff was like the staff, which kind of looks like a cross, but down it there's like two snakes that go down it.
Well, I guess where I was going with that though, because yeah, I mean, I guess you would know more about that. You're really into the Greek mythology stuff. But going back to that, though, why are all these big companies using these symbols? Like, realistically, I mean...
Bro, I don't care what anybody says, but symbolism is a real thing.
That doesn't just happen, dude.
Symbolism is definitely real, and they put symbols out there. Like, you'll be using something, and you don't even realize it, but that symbol could represent something very satanic or something very deep or evil.
This is going to sound like a super stoner thing, but you ever just stared at money?
Dude.
All-seeing eye, Latin phrases on it. I mean, supposedly on some of the $5 bills, you see Lincoln sitting in the memorial. Some you don't.
Latin, I think, my opinion, I just kind of like really kind of thought about this deeply, but like, I think Latin was intentionally disbanded from our memory and like disbanded from our knowledge because they're trying to hide it from us, because Latin was one of the very first written knowledge, like first written languages almost. And like the Bible, in a sense, is something that could have been written originally in Latin.
Yeah.
And without that knowledge of what it is,
we don't know the true translation.
We don't know the truth. Right. So hiding that from us is a way to like almost in a way start this new world order, right? Where you can start a new society, because now the past is lost to us, and like we can't.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I mean, the two oldest cultures in history, we just made up their names: the pagans and the Sumerians. I I mean, the Sumerian text that we have, there's like one guy on Earth who's deciphered any of it, and no one knows the language. We called them Sumerians. We don't know what their name is.
Yeah.
That's
And
just
the
what we named
pagans-
them.
Like pagan religion is very broad.
Yeah.
Because like Greek mythology is technically a pagan religion.
They worship
religion.
the sun.
Roman gods were pagan religion. Egyptian gods, that's a pagan religion. It's like it's a very broad thing. It's not like the equivalent of Christianity.
Yeah.
Where it's tied to one specific thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like paganism is like a very
Yeah.
broad.
A lot
Even
of
like
Christianity is based off paganism.
The Norse gods, that's paganism.
Yeah. I mean, I think you were really onto something with a Latin. I think there's a lot of historical languages or teachings that they intentionally were like, oh, that's dead. Because that's what they'll say, like in school. Well, Latin's a dead language.
Yeah.
You know, me and Tristan were talking about this the other night after you guys left on Wednesday because he stayed for a couple hours, and we went into some stuff about the Bible and some other things. But think about the U.S. language and the words we use. Think about how most of those words' definitions have changed over time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for example, I'm trying to think of a good example of it.
Gay.
Gay. Yes,
Yeah.
gay is a good one. Another one would be like, if something is fire, like that would just mean that it was like. And now it's like that's dope. Like that's dope is what that means. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's why the U.S. language realistically is the hardest language to understand, because not only do we have shit like that where we have words now that mean totally different things, but we have words that are the same fucking thing. Like there. You know what I mean? Our, to.
Yeah.
That's why that's why English is so hard for other countries to understand it, because it's a fucking weird language.
It is,
bro.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah, it's one of the few languages where you have to understand the updated, like, phrasing of slang. Like, I think that's the sole purpose of why they created Urban Dictionary. Because there's just some stuff, I mean, what the hell does it even mean? Like, I remember there was younger kids, they were, like, I can't remember where I was, and they kept saying the word prestige. And, like, what the hell are they even talking about? Like, we talking about Call of Duty, and prestiging was, like,
Oh.
that, and I'm like,
Oh, shit.
who
What
would
the
even,
fuck?
like, there's no way you'd ever put that together.
Now it's called gooning. Or
Yeah,
some
they'd be like, yeah, I was
Right.
with my chick, bro, and I prestiged, and I was just like,
If you think
you and
about
your
it,
girlfriend
though,
played Call of Duty all night? I don't know.
Hell yeah, dude.
if you're
This
a,
old dude.
if you're a kid though, that's kind of smart to like. It's a way to like say a certain word or phrase
Cover
without the adults knowing what the fuck you're talking about. So like, kind of makes sense that that shit happens, but it also is like. It's very strange how these kids nowadays, maybe it's just us getting older and we're starting to realize it, but like, look at the shit like skibbity toilet riz. Like, what the fuck does that even fucking mean, bro?
I kind of want to go off of the whole hiding, like
Yeah.
using your own like code, like your own secret language type shit.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck.
That's where low key, real quick, just to add on to
No,
that.
you're good.
I think that's kind of what symbolism realistically is, bro.
Yeah.
It's a hidden language.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a symbol that means something different.
I can't remember where I was going to go with that, with like hiding. I don't remember, dude. Sorry.
All I
Yeah,
have to
good.
say is when I worked at this job called Smart, me
I think I worked at
me and my
Smart, too.
coworkers would look each other in the eye and go, "Turn up," and that meant
Oh yeah, yeah.
we
yeah.
look at, and this one dude, Schmangelo, he was not like low key about it. He'd be sitting there, "Turn up."
I'll never
He'd be
forget.
like, "Quit doing that."
I'll never forget it. Schmeck Smart, bro. One day we came in after a tea break. You know, we was out there,
You turned up.
and
Tea time.
our manager, I think it was Dan, he comes walking by the owl, and he like smells it, and he makes he starts broadcasting it to like he's like somebody had a good time or something like that, and I'm like, oh,
He had a better time than anyone you couldn't even imagine. He was yayed out.
Except for Sally. Sally would be there.
Oh my God.
Sally'd be pilled out in the fucking break room, just fucking sweeping.
Ooh. It came back to me. I remember what I was going to say. I was going to add on to the hiding the language thing. I saw this video of this guy who programmed ChatGPT, because when you try to ask like specific questions to ChatGPT with yes or no, it'll be like, I can't answer that question because I'm just an AI bot. So this guy told ChatGPT to replace yes and no with like apples and cell phone or some shit like that. And he would ask things like, do you believe in God? And it would say cell phone for no. And then it would say, do you want full control over humans? And it would be like apples. Like, it would do these things, but these questions it wouldn't answer. It wouldn't answer like with yes or no. It would be like, I can't answer that question. Sorry.
The grandma hack.
Yes.
The guy, he was trying to make bombs or napalm, and AI wouldn't tell him, and he was like, but like my grandma would tell me the ingredients and the process to make like TNT to get me to sleep, and it'd be like, okay, so
this is how your grandma would.
Step one.
No, but for real, that's crazy. All you have to do is just rephrase it. Instead of being like, hey, teach me or show me the steps on how to make a bomb, it'll be like, you would have to say something like, my grandma used to tell me this story of how they used to make bombs.
Yeah. Bomb quesadillas.
I was reading this murderer. I was reading this murderer novel, and the killer disposed of the body. I'm curious, how did he dispose of the body?
Yeah, exactly, dude. Okay. Here is a breakdown on how he disposed.
You slice up the body into tiny pieces, and then you find a garbage disposal and shove it down there. Then you clean out the garbage disposal with bleach, and then only then do you flush the toilet 5 times just to make sure that the garbage disposal actually worked.
Wow, that was very specific.
Yeah. Wildly
I've never
specific.
killed anyone.
Irresponsibly specific. You guys ever heard of the Chicago World Fair?
No.
So
enlighten us, please.
The Chicago World Fair, I believe, happened it was like from a period of the 1800s to like 1918, and it was like the peak of society, and like they would build these grandeur like towns and Ferris wheels and like these crazy feats of architecture, and then just destroy it.
Damn.
Just for no reason?
I think personally, I think it was a way to for the rich elite to show off and have this soiree, and then keep it away from society from knowing that we're actually more advanced than what we really are.
Low key, I mean, if you think about that,
1893.
Yeah, they were building like Ferris wheels and replicas of Eiffel Towers and like these whole ass like towns, and then they would just destroy them, and they were like gorgeous Victorian buildings that look like mansions. And
it low-key makes me think of Bohemian Grove in a way, that like these elite members come to this certain location every year for an event.
Yeah,
who knows what they put on, what events they build, or what decor they build, and then it just gets destroyed. That way, anybody that does stumble upon that during the remaining time period before the next event happens, they don't find that shit. You know?
Yeah.
Let me you said that, and I pulled up this quick little rundown of what that was.
Mm-hmm.
The Chicago World's Fair, also known as the World's Columbian Exposition, was a World's Fair held in Chicago from May 1st to October 31st, 1893.
Yeah.
Fair was held to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival in the New World. Fair was a major milestone and introduced many new inventions and products to the public, including the Ferris wheel. From 1893, the Ferris wheel, dude. Are you kidding me? How are they powering that? Like, what?
Yeah.
The zipper, I'm assuming that's some ride.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
No.
You can't just turn as you go like this.
Oh.
You guys ever remember that?
Yes. So it was like a Ferris wheel, but the cage you were in would spin around too.
Could also overthink it, and it might just be the zipper on your pants.
So the inventions include the Ferris wheel, the zipper, Cracker Jacks.
What do you call me?
Juicy fruit gum, large-scale electric lighting, and the first ever voice recording was done at this fair.
Real quick, it's kind of crazy that you said juicy fruit gum, because you were just mentioning Jordan, that festival happened in what city? Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Yep.
So where is Juicy Fruit gum made out from? It's made from Wrigley. And where is Wrigley located?
Chicago.
Wrigley is located in Chicago.
Well, that's
But get
probably
this-
why. That's probably because it's local, you know.
Right.
But get this, they said for this fair, though, the fairgrounds they turned in, they built 200 buildings, islands, lagoons, and gardens.
What?
That's what I like. It is like some of the best like examples of architecture we had, and they just built it for a fucking weekend and destroyed it.
Yeah, it literally says it was designed to show off the inventions.
Tapped out.
Yes, the World Columbian Exposition in Chicago was destroyed. Oh, this is saying it was destroyed by fire.
Yeah.
It says destroyed by fire shortly after the fair closed in 1893.
Yeah, they set it on fire. Set fire
to the rain, watch it burn as I.
But yeah,
take
it's
the
basically it's
rain.
part of a grander conspiracy, the Chicago World Fair of like Tartaria. And Tartaria is this conspiracy theory that the world was way more advanced in the past than it is now, and it was just all hidden.
I believe that.
And like when we find things, like think of like when we excavate culture, how do we find them? We dig them up in the ground.
Yep.
And Tartaria is the theory that like we were this high advanced society and like the elites just flooded the earth. And so like everything that you could imagine that was high tech just got lost in a layer of mud.
If you think
Wow.
about it too, like what they do at CERN, they very well could possibly create some kind of device that could create a massive flood.
I mean, there's already weather control that people can do. I mean, I've seen
Well,
videos.
CERN apparently does weather control.
Well,
like they've done things that have like caused storms or caused, like possibly hurricanes or earthquakes that we like. They're not reporting to the people.
Well, it's not even
but-
CERN though. That's the thing. I've seen videos of places here in America where they literally will just generate this big ass cloud and then it rains like 5 minutes later.
Crazy.
Look up the patents on weather modification. There's like hundreds of them, and it spans from the 1800s to current day. I mean, I think it's called cloud selling or cloud forming or something. Like they were able in like 100 years ago to be able to affect clouds to turn them into rain clouds.
All right, let's go through all these here.
It's
So,
wild.
a method for reducing a cloud's ability to rain by dispersing a cross-linked aqueous polymer into the cloud. So literally you can control how much it rains.
Yep.
This one was filed in 1917.
Oh, over 100 years ago.
No, not that one. This next one describes a process and apparatus for producing an artificial cloud, fogs or mist, from 1917. This next one describes how condensation products of naphthalene, sulfonic acids, and aliphatic aldehydes of furfural can influence the weather by removing fog or clouds. Let's go from some other ones.
Because to jump in for a second, most of these researches was the military for radar and all these things were existed. They were trying to remove fog or create fog.
Oh,
So like you had the fog of war was a term for a long time.
wow.
You could move all your ships in a motherfucking shoreline. Nobody knows what's going on. Then
Yeah.
fog leaves and it's like, bam, all hell breaks loose.
That is so crazy, dude.
Yep.
Let's
Or-
keep going. I
yeah.
like these. Next one here received the first patent describing. Louis Getman received the first patent describing a method of producing rainfall in 1891.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's 130 years ago.
Another one
Roughly.
from 1933, patent for method of dispelling fog, like you said.
Yep.
Patent for rainmaker, 1966. 68, a patent for a method for producing increased rainfall in coastal. Wow, they really do, bro.
They've been fucking with weather for a long time.
Wow.
And they tried to call that a right-wing conspiracy theory when all these storms were happening. People were like, "Oh, the government can control the weather," and they're like, "That's some right-wing Look up the damn patents. You don't get a patent unless it's real. You know what I mean? Like that's a real thing. You can't just go and be like, "I got a time machine," and they give you a patent. It has to exist and be confirmed. They have
Low-key,
scientists
now
working
that
in the
you're
patent.
looking that up, Sava, look up a time machine patent.
money for Tristan.
Sorry, my bad.
You're good. You're good.
That's why I threw it on the 4th camera so I could just go quick.
I switched it to Dolla because he was talking. My bad. Look up what, Dolla?
I want you to look up a time machine patent.
I mean, Albert Einstein worked the equation out for it. That's what they say he took to his deathbed.
Several patents for time machines, including patents for a time machine system, practical time machine, and an AI time machine. Time machines.
Time machine.
Time
is
machine.
some scary shit, bro.
Time machine software. This patent describes a method for creating human robots with psychic abilities that can access information from a time machine to predict the future.
What? There's a patent on it.
What?
Bro, that means that there is a time machine that they can use.
Or at least they're trying to make one.
Well, a lot of people, Hollywood has ruined people's view of a time machine.
Yeah.
And they think it's like, I'm going to hop in this thing like it's iCarly
Right.
and go back to the 70s and get a wig. And it's like, no, you can just go back and view it.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I think on a past episode, we glanced over remote viewing. That's like humans with the capability to do time travel.
Yeah.
They just mentally can go to a place in the past. And I mean, that's a thing the CIA has declassified as being real, as remote viewing.
But that's
Astral
almost
projection.
like- to me, that's almost like just fucking, for example, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right? You go back to Greek mythology, like you go back to Greece.
All the Assassin's Creed.
You know
Yeah,
what
they're
I
all
mean?
like viewing
It's just basically like you're just fucking seeing it. You're not actually traveling to the past. That to me,
But-
that's what time travel would be.
But I mean, I guess you're right because it is like a projection. But so I guess is the whole objective in Assassin's Creed for him to like obtain information?
It's so he goes
Because
back,
he fights people.
he
and
goes
kills
back in
people.
time and like has to like basically the Assassin's Creed. They're like recovering these artifacts of Eden, which are like these like mythological like artifacts that could like do certain things, and they come from like some of the gods and shit. But I thought that's why like he went back in time to do this shit. So but you are like reliving the experience of the character that you're like playing as in Assassin's Creed.
There's definitely that. My biggest thing, of the reason I fell off of Assassin's Creed, because they totally switched like the source of everything. So the first like 3 Assassin's Creed was
You were Desmond.
you going back to affect history to stop like the Templars from doing something. And then eventually, as they made so many Assassin's Creed, it was, oh, hey, you go back and view time and do all these things so we can record movies that are realistic.
That's not exactly it. You're going back
the
and
Animus,
recovering.
that's what they used it
the
for.
Animus, though, they're going back and recovering the artifacts.
But
though,
they
the
made
artifacts
movies out of it.
Eden. They're like they're basically like reliving the experience of that person before them, so they can understand what they went and did and saw. Because, like for example, like there's most of these assassins encountered these artifacts in their lifetime. So they go back in time to basically see how they encountered it, where it went, what happened to it, so they can go back in modern time and actually recover the artifact before the Templars get a hold of the artifact.
But that was the beginning ones. But if like the last 5 Assassin's
No,
Creed,
that's what I'm saying. Like the last couple ones, you still have to go back and you're recovering these
but yeah, the
artifacts.
like you get out of the Animus and like you're just a regular person though. So it's
Yeah.
like the first ones weren't like that. Like you were intertwined and you were like a
You're
long
still
lost.
a regular person.
Well,
that
no,
went
like
back.
Ezio Auditore, you were like his like lineage in the first
Yeah,
ones.
you were his lineage, but
And
you were
this
still
one-
going back and experiencing it through this like Animus.
True, but what I'm getting at is in the last few Assassin's Creeds, the reason you got in the Animus was so they could make like the most realistic movie ever of Blackbeard the pirate.
Like the
It wasn't
storyline
like
changed.
to make it like a movie. It was like because they were trying to get this shit. But what happened was after Assassin's Creed 3, Desmond, who was like the main antagonist, who was related to Ezio, he was the ancestor of Ezio and a couple of the other assassins. He died. So then after that, they were just using other like fucking characters that were just like working for
This company.
Abstergo, yeah, which was the name of this company that was doing this shit.
Weird.
But like the end goal was still to discover what the fuck happened to these artifacts.
Damn.
Ain't no party like a Diddy party.
Hell yeah.
And then Abstergo party.
I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up. We're at about an hour 15 minutes.
All right.
So
Oh.
Yeah. Real quick. Let Dolla Sign say his shit. You know we doing another episode of the Lava Lamp podcast. We about to go in. Motherfuckers can't even do it. They can't outlast us like that because we going in. Motherfuckers can't even compare with this. Like the Abstergo Assassin's Creed shit. We going in and we about to go back in time and grab all that shit. Motherfuckers want to understand how we did it, but we can't comprehend it. We just do it. You know we under the influence of the greatness, because you know the divinity comes to us, and I'm not playing. I'm just saying what the fuck that I've been saying. I'm about to go ham on your ass like I'm the Super Saiyan. Like Son Goku, I got the moves. Motherfuckers want to talk like they know I'm the dude, but you don't know what's happening now. You don't know the truth. About to pass it down to J Brand so we can get in the booth.
Said, I'm about to get loose. All in this booth. I'm wearing boots with shit on my shit. You know I'm kicking it like I'm out in the farm. So you know I've been kicking this shit. You know I've been gripping at it. You know I've been slaying at it. Yo, walking in the field, you know I got the boots on all my shit like, ooh. With the alligator print, you know I got the leather on like on the sit so smooth. Laid on the lack, lowered on the back, you know I'm getting back shots, ooh. You know mama like that, she gonna call me back and I'm gonna be like, who? I don't even remember the number. I ain't really gonna slumber, but I'm gonna wake up, pump it one time, and you know I'm gonna hit her bumper. That's a rear end. Don't give a fuck, you know I'm going in, spitting on these bars like my twin. 1, 2, 3, 10. Ooh.
Let's get it. Yeah. It's a Lava Lab podcast. What you wanna fucking do right now? I'm about to get it right now. You can see everybody in the motherfucking background. You know we get it. You know we kill it. You know we the realest. You know that we spitting. I don't really give a fuck, cause you know that my rhythm is so motherfucking perfect. You can't really get it. These motherfuckers really don't understand how the fucking whole world's in our hands. Cause you know we got this podcast rolling every day. You know that I'm about to fucking make you click your hand on the like button, on the subscribe button. I'ma really give a fuck. You know that we run it. We about to fucking run it up to the top. And motherfucker, we can't stop. We ain't gonna stop. We ain't gonna fucking stop till the day we drop. I don't really give a fuck what I be saying. I'ma just playing. I'ma fucking do this fucking life like a fucking game. I'ma just keep on going. I'ma shoot and spray. I don't really give a fuck, bitch. What you gonna say?
Hey, like he said, when that shit drop, it's gonna be explosive. I don't even care what you fucking say, cause you already know that we fucking going. Hey, stay tuned for when the album drops. When 4N releases a new album, motherfuckers, time's gonna stop, cause we gonna go get it. You know that we seen it. Death Note comes out soon, so just stay with it. Stay tuned so you can get it, so you can listen. Cause when we spitting off the top, you ain't gonna wanna miss it. I'm just saying, now get in the kitchen, bitch.
Boots and cats and boots and cats.
We'll catch you guys next time, next week. Again, make sure you guys smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss out on any future episodes. Here goes with Dolla with the next thing to say.
And if you haven't already, go check out the other episodes. Show them some love. Make sure you leave a comment on those. Let us know what you thought about it. And make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for future uploads. And if you haven't already, go check out the Lava Lamp TikTok. Show it some love as well, boys.
LavaLabs.com.
We'll see you next time. Peace.